Hey guys, and welcome back to the internet. So today's video is going to be a little bit different than usual. Now a little while ago I had a question of the day that involved some scary stories, and I got a lot of feedback saying that you wanted me to do more horror themed stuff. So this is going to be my first full-on horror video. So rather than dealing with some choosing beggars or entitled parents, it's time to deal with some real creeps. So this first one is called, Years of Watching Crime Docs Might Have Saved My Life. So for 6 months last year, I lived in the north of Spain. About a week before I was going to move back to Ireland, my friend and I were at my house having dinner and drinking a little. I was renting an apartment in the city, and my roommate was an older lady, maybe in her 50s. I'm 20. That night my roommate left to go have dinner with her friends. About a minute after she left, someone buzzed our door to be let into the building. I looked at the camera and didn't recognize the woman. She looked to be in her late 20s to early 30s, so I assumed it was just one of my roommate's friends and she was coming to meet her or something like that. I buzzed her into the building, assuming they would meet in the lobby. At first I didn't buzz her in because I didn't recognize her, and she walked away from the door. But then I hit the buzzer as soon as she walked away, and then I, myself, walked away from the camera, meaning I couldn't see if she had actually entered or not, assuming that if she did enter, she would just call or text my roommate. Boy, was I wrong. This woman came up to the apartment building on the 6th floor. She came up just 2 minutes after my roommate left, so I know she didn't take the stairs, and I know they must have seen each other when my roommate got off the lift, and the lady got in. Realizing that this is weird, I do not open the door when she rings it. I look through the peephole just to confirm that it was nobody I knew. At this point I back away from the door and gesture for my friend to be silent. We creep back to my room, which is at the far side of the apartment, and I begin calling my roommate who isn't picking up. Meanwhile, the lady is incessantly ringing my door. My roommate is not picking up, and my friend is just telling me to open my door. In her mind, it's a woman, so she must be harmless. I tell her she's an idiot for underestimating the female sex. Women can be criminals too. She keeps telling me to open the door, and I refuse. The door keeps ringing. I keep looking out the peephole. At this point, I understand that if she knew my roommate was looking for someone specific, she would call or text them. She didn't take out a phone at all. She just stayed eerily silent. Didn't call out any names or ask if anyone was home. This was weird to me. I finally get through to my roommate. She says she wasn't expecting anyone, and that she doesn't know anyone in that age range. She asks if I'm okay, and I say I'm fine. Now, it's been at least 20 minutes. I know the lady knows someone is home because the lights are on, and my understanding is that's why she's not leaving. So I continue watching her through the peephole and see her go into the lift for a minute and then come back out again. The lift is really loud, and I would have heard it move. It didn't. She just went in and came out. In my mind, this means there's someone in the lift waiting for her. This seems sketchy to me. After about 40 minutes, she leaves. I run to our hall and flick on the outside camera. The lady left the building with 2 men. They all had backpacks on. I will be eternally grateful for trusting my instincts and not listening to my friend. Sometimes it's better to be safe than sorry. So creepy lady with henchmen, let's not meet again. Let's not meet is the theme of today's stories. So prepare to hear about a lot of stalkers. Sheeted man in the alley. So for context, I work at a coffee shop that opens at 5 a.m., so I typically leave my house to get there at around 4:30 a.m. 5 days a week. I park my car in the alleyway where we have reserved parking because it can get hard to park on the street in the city. I've never had any strange instances before, and typically all the homeless or wanderers are kind and mind their own business in the morning. However, this morning was different than usual. I walked down my stairs and got to the back gate, unlocked it, and when I opened it, there was a man probably about 6'5" standing completely still about 15 feet from me. The weird thing was, the only thing he was wearing was a long black bedsheet covering his face, with a white rope tied around his neck. There were no mouth or eye holes or anything to give me an idea of who this person could be. I'm not even sure how he was breathing okay or even seeing the things around him. So taken aback, I choose to believe this was just a confused person who will mind their own business, so I walked to my car, keeping an eye on him while I walked. He didn't move a muscle and just stood in the middle of the alley, facing me. That was until he heard the click of my door handle while I was opening my car. Once he heard that, he started to skip dramatically over to me, exaggerating his motions like a little kid. I closed the door as fast as I could and locked it. Once I was in my car, I looked behind me and he was moving his head back and forth really slowly as if he was looking in my back window. I started to back up. Not fast enough to hit him, but fast enough for him to get the idea that I needed to leave, and he was making me uncomfortable. He backed up slowly with my car never getting more than a couple inches from it, and finally I had enough room to drive away. As I was leaving, I looked behind me and he was standing completely still in the same spot in the alley as before. Completely calm, but before he was just out of view, he raised his hand up as if to wave goodbye and froze again. I'm still not sure what he planned to do or what his intentions were, but the sheeted man in the alley, let's not meet again. You know, if this was happening during the day, I would think that it was maybe just a cruel practical joke, but happening at 4:30 in the morning would make that really creepy. Next we have the guy watching me sleep. So this happened at the time we moved to our current house that has a big garden. After moving in and being done with furnishing and making our house feel cozy, my parents decided it's time to hire a gardener to do the lawn mowing, cutting the bushes, and stuff like that. I was about 11 at the time and wasn't involved in deciding on our gardener or contacting him, so I didn't know when he'd first come. One Saturday dawn, it was very early in the morning, and I awoke to my dog moving around in the bed and looking in the window. I was alone in the house, since my parents used to work in the weekends. My room was on the ground floor, so the window was only about 1.5 meters from the ground. I was still half asleep when I noticed someone was standing outside my window. His silhouette could be seen through the blinds. I was a bit weirded out, but figured it must be the new gardener, and he's here so early because he wants to finish the work before the unbearable afternoon heat we have in the summer. I drifted off to sleep again, and when I woke up around 10 in the morning, the cops were waiting outside, talking to the neighbors. It turned out to be a criminal who climbed in through the fence and took a few things from the small storage room that opens to the terrace, like a secateur and some other tools. After that, he stood by my window for minutes, watching me sleep through the blinds gaps. That's when the upstairs neighbor's lady, who was pregnant at the time, headed to the bathroom because morning sickness woke her up very early, and she noticed him standing there. She called the cops immediately, who later talked to me after they caught the man and said he seemed to be very distraught and his intentions were unclear. I still don't know to this day what he planned to do, but dear crazy guy who watched me sleep, let's not meet again. I think this just goes to show that even in the safest neighborhoods, you never know who's going to wander in. The guy who just wanted to give me his number. About a year ago, I was walking into town from my house to do a little shopping. A guy stopped me. At first, I thought he was just lost and needed directions, but he said, "I'm sorry about stopping you. I just thought you were so pretty. I have to give you my number." I thanked him awkwardly, because it's not every day some stranger just comes up to you and says that, but told him that I had a boyfriend, and refused to take his number. He seemed to take it well, and I went on with my way without seeing or hearing from him again that day. A couple of days later, I was heading into town again. There was the same guy, in almost the same spot. Again, he attempted to stop me and give me his number, but I had a dentist's appointment that I was going to be late for if I stopped, so he tried to walk next to me all the way to my dentist's. I took a detour through a clothes shop with 2 exits, and lost him in the racks of clothes. About a week or so later, I'm pushing my daughter in her buggy into town to meet my mother for lunch. The same guy is waiting for me again. I saw him, he saw me see him, and I turned and walked back the way I'd come. He started to follow me. I didn't head to my house because I didn't want him to know where I lived. I called my mother, told her I was going to be a little bit late because some creep was following me, and turned onto a residential street. There was an older man, maybe in his 70s, out mowing his lawn. I had turned onto the street ahead of the creep and hurried over to this guy. I quickly explained that some strange man was following me and I didn't feel safe, particularly since I had my daughter with me. He let me into his house and we stood just behind the door, out of sight. The creepy guy went past, and once he was gone, the old guy let me know and I hurried off into town as quickly as I could. On my way home, my mom gives me a lift home in her car. We stopped by the old man's house and gave him some apple pie and flowers to say thank you for being so kind. I've never seen that creep since, but all the same, let's not meet again. This guy's trying the old trick of, the number you gave me was wrong, so I followed you home. Alright, now we got one more story, but we still do have a good question of the day, so stick around. So this is, my dad's creepy friend. So this happened when I was about 8 or 9 years old. I'm 26 now, so this was a long time ago. Forgive me if some details are forgotten. I only heard half of this story from my dad years later. It's not a story I've ever told anyone about, not even my mom or the friend mentioned. So it was in the middle of August in southern Ontario, and contrary to what a lot of people believe, it actually does get quite hot here, roughly between 25 and 35 Celsius, with a humidex on top of that. My friend Annie and I were just coming home from the public pool, so we were dressed in our swimsuits with shorts and towels on top, not exactly greatly covered up, but we were, again, 8 or 9 years old, and neither of us felt comfortable changing in the women's change rooms at the pool, because they weren't exactly in great condition. Splinters, germs, and whatnot. So we usually wore our swimsuits under our clothes and drip-dried on the way home. It was a nice way to keep cool and a nice way to get sunburned. As we were walking up the street to my townhouse, I was completely oblivious. I saw my dad sitting with his friend, a neighbor, from down the street, and me and Annie walked up the stairs. I greeted my dad with, "Hi, Dad," and noticed that his friend's face went very red. I remember finding that very weird. This is the first time I've ever met this man, and so I brushed him off. I asked my dad for permission to bring Annie inside and hang out in the basement rec room for a while, watching movies as we usually did on the weekends. He of course said yes, and off we went, none the wiser. It was some years later that my dad confided in me that this friend had made some gross comments about myself and my friend Annie. Specifically, my dad's friend said, "You take the one in the purple, I'll take the one in the pink." I'd been wearing a pink swimsuit and pink shorts. Knowing that I'd been wearing pink, it all clicked together why his face had gone so red when I said the words, "Hi, Dad." I felt sick to my stomach. There is no way he could have mistaken us for older than we were. We were both very short, maybe about 4 feet tall, and had no hips or chest to speak of. We hadn't even hit puberty yet, and it showed. My dad thought it was hilarious and continuously gave him the benefit of the doubt, that it was just an embarrassing mistake, but I still feel sick when I think about it. I remember avoiding being alone with that guy every time my dad brought him around at any cost, but didn't really know why and couldn't justify it when queried. I always got a weird feeling from him, and the way he looked at me sent chills down my spine. So, my dad's weird, gross friend, let's hope for your sake, let's not meet again. Yeah, maybe your dad needs to find some better friends. But now we move on to the question of the day, which is, people who had hallucinations, what's the creepiest thing you've seen? I regularly had hallucinations before I got my antipsychotics. Still get some today, but they're nowhere near as vivid as they used to be. I saw a lot of tall, pale, humanoid figures with no facial features. Scared the crap out of me when I read Slenderman creepypasta. Also saw plenty of nondescript shadows. One time I saw one near my pantry, looking like it was sorting through the food. That actually makes me less afraid, since I imagine it was grabbing a snack. My tactile hallucinations were the worst. I would feel itchy all over, or felt like bugs were crawling over my skin. My auditory ones were the less frightening ones. I'd usually just hear voices that were too quiet to understand. I felt like I was hearing someone else's conversation in passing. I've been on my meds for 4-ish years now, and I'm doing so much better. I still hear the occasional thing, but overall I do not hallucinate anymore. You know, when it comes to hallucinations, there's really 3 ways of it happening. Either 1, you have some sort of mental condition like schizophrenia. 2, you could be on some hallucinogenic drugs. Or 3, you're having some terrible nightmare or a sleep paralysis. But I would say that having the mental disorder would be one of the scariest because it would be the hardest to get away from. So I get sleep paralysis quite often. The scariest one was when I was 11. I was sleeping on my back with my head to the side looking at my wall. I woke up looking at myself in the big mirror on the wall. Mirror was at me staring back, but he wasn't paralyzed, and it looked like he wanted to kill me. You know, it's hard to say if I've ever actually had sleep paralysis. I've been paralyzed in dreams, and I've had lots of just endless ongoing nightmares. But I'm not sure I've ever woken up and felt paralyzed while just laying in bed. The scariest thing I saw was I was biking to a friend's house around the corner from my house. I felt something behind me and looked, and there was a pitch-black humanoid figure riding on the back of my bike. I crashed the bike. Freaking rude hallucination. I'm not sure what was causing you to hallucinate there, but it might not be too safe to be riding a bike in that case. I saw a dude with a girl walking in front of me. The girl was normal, so was he, except the part in which he has a black rotating void instead of a head. Wait, you're telling me that's a hallucination when that happens? The creepiest thing I've seen while hallucinating. When I was maybe 14 or 15, I had seen a tall, lanky silhouette at the bottom of my stairs. Its head was facing up to me, but I couldn't see any facial features. It reached out with one of its arms up to me, but before anything else happened, I closed my eyes and stood there for about 5 minutes, maybe 10. I opened my eyes and poof, it's gone. I don't know if you'd class that as creepy though. Seems like there's a lot of people who claim to have seen a Slenderman type creature. Hundreds of insects crawling up my arms while I was paralyzed. Was not a good idea to take sleeping pills when I was 5. Yeah, that's kinda young to be taking sleeping pills. Now when I said that I've been paralyzed in dreams, I've tended to notice that, so I have like pretty severe arachnophobia, and pretty much any time I see a spider in my dream, it's usually like very close to me or getting closer to me, and that's when I'm paralyzed and I can't move and get away from it. So yeah, that's always fun. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed my first real spooky video. Honestly, I'm not really sure where to find good true stories, cause we've got like r/no sleep, but most of those are just fiction, and I prefer to just stick to the true stories. r/LetsNotMeet is great and all, but, you know, you can only listen to so many stalker stories before they get old. So if you know of any good places where I can pull some good, true, creepy stories that are in high supply, go ahead and let me know. But anyways, that does it for this first spooky video. Let me know if you guys want me to do this again. I mean, I definitely won't be doing this like every single day, but you know, maybe like once a week or every once in a while I'll try and pull together a spooky video, because I think they're a lot of fun. Anyways, thanks for watching.